Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the determinants of exchange rates. So today also just we will remind about the determinants of exchange rates and we will go to the new concepts. How the exchange rates are going to determine. So on the basis of some of the factor only the exchange rates are going to determine. So what are the factors are there to determining the exchange rate is? First one is differentials in inflations. The inflation and the exchange rates are inversely related. A country with a consistently lower inflation rate exhibits a rising currency's value as its purchasing power increases relative to other currencies. Normally, the inflation rates of one nation is very low. What will happen? The currency rate also will be increasing because when we have the inflation situations our value of currency is very low, so all the nations will come to our nations to make the imports. So when we are, even when we have the chance to making the exports on more, our value of currency is very low, so we cannot increase our rate of exchange, otherwise we cannot make our value of currency is extant. Next, differentials in interest rates. So there is a high degree of correlations between interest rates, inflations and exchange rates. So central banks can influence over both inflation and the exchange rates by manipulating interest rates. So on the basis of the inflations and deflations time, the central bank will take some of the efforts to rendering the money to the entrepreneurs. So the exchange rate will be reduced on the deflation time and the interest rate will be increasing on the inflation time. So whenever we have more interest rate, so the foreign direct investment will never come to our nations. So in the same time, the deflation time, we will attract more foreign direct investment because the rate of interest will be very low. Next, current account deficit. A deficit in the current account implies excess of payments over receipts. So the country resorts to borrowing capital from foreign sources to make up the deficit. So excess demand for foreign currencies lowers a country's exchange rate. Whenever we have the deficit current account, so our receipts will be increased. Next, public debt. The large public debts are driving out foreign investors because it leads to inflations. As a result, exchange rate will be lower. So whenever the governments are taking to make the expenditure to providing the infrastructure facilities, the inflation rate will be increased. As a result, exchange rate will be lower because when our governments are going to make the more expenditures, the inflations automatically will be created. But on the basis of the inflation time, so our Reserve Bank of India also will be increasing more rate of interest. By thinking of the more rate of interest, the foreign direct investment also will be reduced. And because of that, we will get the lower exchange rate because the value of money may be very lower. So even though if you are taking more effort to increasing the export, we cannot able to make it. And because of that, the foreign direct investment also will be decreased described matters. So on the basis of public debt also, our exchange rate may be have some of the reduced. Next, terms of trade. A country's terms of trade also determines the exchange rate. If the price of a country's exports rises by a greater rate than that of its imports, its terms of trade will be improved. If the price of a country's export rises by greater rate than of our imports, the terms of trade will be improved. As we studied already, if we have more export, that means we will have more receives, and because of that we will get the more exchange rate or the more value of currencies. Next, political and economic stability. If a nation's political climate is stable and economic performance is good, its currency value will be appreciated by attracting more foreign capital. Because when we are involving in this international trade, we must have the stability and the good economical situations or the political situations, because the political situations always will be subjected to changes, but the trade is not like that. So when one of the ruling party is make some of the rules according to the terms of trade, according to the international trade or the possibility favorable transfer of trade, it will be good. Suddenly the political situation is changed and if the economic stability is falling down, so the economic rate will be come down. Next, recessions. The interest rates are low during the recession phase. Already we have studied the many bases of trade cycles are there. So one of the trade cycle is recessions. So in this recession period, so the Reserve Bank of India will be decreasing the rate of interest. So because of that, our domestic entrepreneurs may have the possibility to improve our supply of commodities. But in the same time, the foreign investors will never come to our nations to make a investment. But if we have the possible to increasing the supply of commodities in domestic nations, we will never attract the foreign trade. Next is speculations. If a country's currency value is expected to rise, investors will demand more of that currencies in order to make a profit in the near future. Suppose if any of the foreign investors get the prediction to increasing the value of money is going to increase, he will come to our nations to make the investment. So on the basis of the speculative mind, we will get some of the foreign investment. Because of that, we can increase or our money value also may be increase. So by the 8 reasons are there to determine the foreign exchange rate. Next we have studied the foreign direct investment. The foreign direct investment is an important factor in global economy. So foreign trade and foreign direct investments are closely related, because without having the foreign direct investment, no nations will come to the foreign trade, and the foreign trade also will never happen without the foreign direct investment, because all the nations are still not having the self sufficient to improving the import and the export. So foreign direct investment is helpful to accelerate the economic growth by facilitating essential imports needed for carrying out the development programs like capital goods, technical know-how, raw materials and other inputs, and even scarce consumer goods. So because of the foreign direct investment only, we will get the accelerate the all the economic growth. So if we want to increasing the capital goods, we have to depending upon the foreign direct investment. If we get some of the technical know-how, we have to depending upon the foreign direct investment. So the raw materials and other inputs also we will get from the foreign trade only. if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, because some of the developed nations will helpful to the lower divisions countries only if you are allowing the foreign direct investment. Otherwise they will never giving the foreign direct helpful to increasing our economic development. So next we have studied the objectives of foreign direct investment. First one is sales expansions. So foreign direct investment has the follow some of the objectives. First one is the sales expansions. If you want to increase our sales, or if you want to increase our types of market and the expanding our market, we must be allowed the foreign direct investment. Next, acquisition of resources. So mostly if we want to increasing our export level, we must allow the foreign direct investment. Otherwise it is not possible. Next, minimization of competitive risk. So if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, so we can have many industrial sectors, and because of that we will get more employment opportunity, we will get more market facilities, and all the peoples can able to get all the commodities produced by all the countries. So normally the competitive with the domestic nations will be reduced. Okay students, then today we will study about the advantages of foreign direct investment. So what are the advantages are there in this foreign direct investment mean? First, increase the investment. How the foreign direct investment will be increase the investment? The foreign direct investment may helpful to increase the investment level and thereby the income and employment in the host countries. So when we are allowing the foreign direct investment, they will make investment on the domestic nations. Because of that, we will get more industrial sectors. So whenever the number of industrializations are going to increase, on the basis of that increasing the industrializations, we will get more employment opportunity. And the domestic nations investment on the domestic nations also will be increased considerably. Next, transfer to technology. So the direct foreign investment may facilitate transfer of technology to the recipient countries. Now if you are considering our nations maybe as a developing nations, but even the underdeveloped countries also will have the possibilities to get the more technologies. The many of the developed nations can able to transferring their advanced technology to the developing countries and the underdeveloping countries only if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, because the foreigners also will be increasing the productivity or the size of production in the host countries and branches countries also. So if they allowed the technical only, it is possible. Next, bring revenue to the government. The foreign direct investment may also bring revenue to the government of host countries when it taxes profits of foreign firms or gets royalties from concession agreements. So whenever one of the nations are going to allowing the foreign direct investment, it can able to bring some of the tax policies, the different type of the tax policies. If one of the nations can allow the foreign investment with the number of tax and the different tax policies. So when we are allowing the foreign direct investment, the domestic industrializations and the foreign investors also have to pay some of the tax to the host countries. So the domestic countries also can get some of the revenue from the tax. Next, expansion and modernizations. A part of profit from direct foreign investment may be bluffed back into the expansion, modernizations, or development of related industries. So, even if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, we can have the possibilities to expand and make the modernization into our industrializations in our domestic countries. Next, managerial revolutions. So it may kindly managerial revolutions in the recipient countries through professional management and sophisticated management techniques. So some of the developing nations and underdeveloping nations are not having the possibilities to increase or having the managerial skills. So we can get from the foreign direct investment and the foreign trade. Next, increasing the exports. How we can increasing the export from the foreign direct investment means foreign capital may enable the country to increase its exports and reduce imports requirements and thereby case of balance of disequilibrium. So whenever if you want to gathering the foreign direct investment, so the foreigners only will make the possibilities or chances to increase the export to their neighbor countries and the trading countries. Sometimes for example, if you are allowing the foreign direct investment on the American investors, they will make the possibilities to increasing the export on the another one of the countries. Next, break the domestic monopolist. So foreign investment also help to increase in the competitions and break the domestic monopolist. So already we have studied every nations also have one of the monopolistic powers. Monopolistic powers means in our nations if any of the producers can have the power to produce as a monopolistic, he only will have the power to fixing their price of their commodities. But if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, so the foreigners or the foreign investors also will make the industrial and produce the same commodities with the low price. And because of that, the domestic monopolist will come to an end, because if any of the producers are producing the same type of commodities with low price, so all the peoples will want to get the desire to purchasing that commodity only. So automatically the domestic monopolist will come to an end. Next, the more value of output. If foreign direct investment adds more value to output in the recipient's country than the return on the capital from foreign investment, then the social returns are greater than the private returns on foreign investment. So whenever we have the chance to allowing the foreign direct investment, we can have the chance to increasing our export. So whenever we have the chance to increasing the export, we have to increasing our output of domestic countries. So we will have more output of commodities, and if these commodities also have the more demand, we will get the more value of output. Next, filling the savings gap. By bringing the capital and foreign exchange, foreign direct investment may help in filling the savings gap and foreign exchange gap in order to achieve the goal of national economic development. So the savings also will be improved whenever we want to allowing the foreign direct investment. The exchange gap in order to achieve the goal of national economic development. Next, stimulate the domestic enterprises. The foreign investments may stimulate domestic enterprises to invest in ancillary industries in collaborations with foreign enterprises. So the domestic enterprises also will be going to stimulated by the foreign direct investment, because before the arrival of the foreign direct investment, the domestic enterprises will be have the less stimulating power to increasing their productions. But after arrival of the foreign direct investment, the foreign investors will be increasing their production level. So after having the understand of the foreign direct investment, so the domestic enterprises will be increasing their supply of commodity. Next, encourage its entrepreneurs. So foreign direct investment flowing into a developing country may also encourage its entrepreneurs to invest in others lower divisions countries. The firms in India have started investing in Nepal, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Kenya and other lower divisions countries, while they are still borrowing from abroad. Larger foreign direct investment to India comes from a small countries. So the by allowing the foreign direct investment, we will get nearby more advantages. Next, disadvantages of foreign direct investment. Even though if we have more advantages from the foreign direct investment, we will have some of the disadvantages also. First one is the capital tends to flow the high profit area. So the private foreign capital tends to flow to the high profit area rather than to the priority sectors. If you are allowing the foreign direct investment or the investors, they will never make the investment on the priority sectors. They will make the investment only for the area which has more profitable. Next, not appropriate technologies. The technologies brought in by the foreign investors may not be appropriate to the consumption needs, size of the domestic market, resources availabilities, stages of development of the economy, etc. Even if we have the possibilities to transferring the technologies from the developed nations, these technologies will not be helpful to our developing nations, and some of the technologies will be having the not appropriate portions only. Next, unfavorable effect. The foreign investment sometimes have unfavorable effect on the balance of payment of a country, because when the drain of foreign exchange by way of royalty, dividend, etc. is more than the investment made by the foreign concerns. So even if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, so it is not sufficient to able to or otherwise the equal to foreign exchange rate. Even if you are allowing the foreign exchange, sorry, foreign direct investment, it will not able to helpful to come our balance of payment as equal. Next, interfere in national politics. The foreign capital sometimes interferes in the national politics, because if you are allowing the foreign investors or the foreign direct investment, and if they are became the monopolist, and if they are make the dominance to make the power of getting the market, they will get the interfere, they will get the power to interfere in national politics. Next, unethical trade. The foreign investors sometimes engage in unfair and unethical trade practice. So even if you are allowing the foreign direct investment, the foreigners or the foreign investors may produce some of the unethical trade. Next, distract to small and medium scale enterprises. So foreign investment in some cases leads to the distraction or weakening of small and medium enterprises. If you are allowing the foreign direct investment, they will produce any of the commodities and which have already produced in our nations by the small and medium scale entrepreneurs. So the foreign direct investment may have the chance to distract the small and medium scale enterprises and the domestic nations. Next, dangerous situations. So sometimes the foreign investment can result in the dangerous situation of minimizing or eliminating the competitions and the creation of monopolies or oligopolistic structures. If you are allowing the foreign direct investment, it will be create some of the dangerous situations by the way of eliminating or minimizing the monopolist or the oligopolist structures. Next, several costs. So often there are several costs associated with the encouraging foreign investment. If we want to allowing the foreign direct investment, we have to make the expenditures more to attract the foreign direct investment. Because of that, our nations also have to take more effort. More effort means they have to make more expenditures to creating the structures. Next, foreign direct investment in India. The yearly 1991, the reforms in the economic policy, this helped to open up Indian markets to foreign direct investment. The foreign direct investment in India has increased over the years. In India, foreign direct investment has been advantageous in terms of free flow of capital. So the major sectors benefited from foreign direct investment in India are financial sector. Some of the banking sector only got some of the advantages from the foreign direct investment. Next, insurance and telecommunications and hospitality and tourism and pharmaceuticals and software and information technologies. Wherever they can have the more chance to increasing the profit, that sector only got the foreign direct investment. So we will never get any of the foreign direct investment in our primary sectors. So foreign direct investment is not permitted in the industrial sectors like arms and ammunition, atomic energy, railways, and coal and lignite, and mining and iron. So what are the sectors are undertaken by our domestic nations will never allow the foreign direct investment. Okay, students, till these portions we have completed our seventh chapters. And if you have any doubt on the seventh chapters, please ask me, and just you can take the advantages and disadvantages of the foreign direct investment as your study portions. Thank you.